Hours passed, and we hadn't seen anything more from Alan. Dread filled my chest, and I feared the worst. Best case scenario was he made it. He made it to the other end of the tunnel of water and was able to escape, and he's running to get help as we speak. I don't want to even think of any other possible scenario at this point. G said he was probably long dead by now, and not to hope for a return or a rescue. I refuse to believe that, but doubt always sets in the longer you think about it. G was being cradled by Cameron. Hector was asleep as far away from the rest of us as possible, and the others that refused to talk stayed huddled together in a large group. I think they might have been tourists from a few years ago. The water beside me started bubbling, and I looked over, watching as something started surfacing. G started backing up, pulling Cameron with her, and the silent group held their breath. Was this it? I scooted back until I hit the side of the cave, and I pulled my knees up to my chest. A creature emerged from the depths, water cascading off its large head and onto the rock I had just been sitting on. Large claws clicked against the stone, pulling the creature out of the water and onto the dry ledge. Dark gray skin stretches across every inch of its body. Gills along its neck seem to breathe in and out. Even in the air, water dripped from the fangs that protruded the space between its upper and bottom jaws, giving me a nice view of at least 2 sets of teeth within the beast's mouth. I struggled to push out a few shaky breaths as I just stared at the monster. It settled itself down on the rock and went to lay down, but in the process, its tail swung around and smacked me in the side of my head, sending me sliding across the rock and off into the water, my vision failing me and consciousness leaving. I woke up at the entrance to the park. Well, it was behind us, and we were driving away, dry and safe, in the car we had arrived in. Somehow, Alan had managed to do it, although I didn't see my mom or brother. "Alan, where are they?" I yelled. "I couldn't find them," he yelled back, swerving around a downed tree in the road, nearly knocking us off the pavement and into a deep ditch. "Let me drive and get us out of here." "But my mom and my brother are out there." "We'll find them," he protested. "No, we have to go back right now." I reached over for the wheel and grabbed it, swerving us off into the ditch. Tires screeched, the car slammed into the hard ground. Choking on water, I started spitting, water suddenly flowing from my mouth, and I opened my eyes, gasping deeply and sitting straight up. Cameron and Hector stared at me worriedly, Cameron's hand on my back, holding me up so I could breathe. Hector leaned back to a sitting position off his knees. "Are you okay?" Hector asked, almost in a whisper. "I think." I coughed hard, spitting up more water and a patch of fur into my hand. Inspecting it, I noticed it was brown, a light brown, just like the lion's. "I told you," G said from the back of the cave. "I freaking told you we are never getting out of here." She was pointing to something off to my right, and my heart dropped when I saw it. Floating in the water was a piece of Alan's shirt. That bright red fabric has been shredded from the looks, and this was just a small piece. What had happened to him? I sniffled softly, doing my best to keep from letting the waterworks flow, and as soon as I was able to go tell myself again, I stood up. No, we have to get out of here, I said, unsure but doing my best to put on a brave face. We can't. A soft voice from the back spoke up. It was a child that hadn't said a single thing since I'd been down there. Her eyes were bright blue, seeming to glow in the darkness. Carolyn, hush. The woman beside her shushed the child. Black curls bounced as the kid looked back towards the ground and played with the Velcro on her shoes. Carolyn mumbled something back, and the woman once again hushed her. I stepped over towards them, earning a cringe, and one person shuffling backwards. The woman stared me down, sending chills down my back. Don't even try, she barked through gritted teeth. Hey, I'm just trying to get out of here. I think we can do it, but we all have to try. I trailed off, looking around and beginning to really take in all the people around the woman. They were all children, every single one, ranging in ages from what looked like 8 to 14. Why did she have so many children, I wondered. We can do this. I'm sure you're frightened, but I know we can do this. We just have to find another way. She suddenly leapt to life and jumped me, shoved me to the ground, leaving me winded once more, and started yelling at me. No, we can't escape. We just can't. We're sitting here waiting and brainstorming and trying our best to stay hopeful, but it's all a waste, because we're all just going to die anyway. Several children started to cry softly, huddling up closer to each other and pulling their tattered jackets up around their necks, treating them like their safety blankets, basically. You are going to make things so much worse. A sharp pain spread across my cheek, her hand pulling away from my face as I stood back up. No, we can get out. I know we can. We just have to put our heads together and figure this out. I turned away from her towards Hector, and as I went to take a step, I got hit in the back of the head by something hard, slammed down straight into another rock, and once more lost consciousness. Cameron was again the first person I saw when I woke back up, her hands gripping my shoulders and shaking vigorously. Francine, wake up! Cameron was staring at me intently, checking to make sure my head was okay. Dried blood trailed from my forehead down to the base of my neck, but otherwise, I seemed okay. I felt okay other than a headache. I heard struggling and I looked over. The woman had been tied up in the corner by some makeshift ropes made out of ripped-up shirts. You'll regret this. Why did you attack me? I barked out suddenly, standing up and taking a step towards her. Carolyn had been sitting at her side, but upon seeing me step towards her, she shuffled away and rejoined the others. You are not going to get us out of here. A smirk, just faintly, and disappeared as sudden as it had appeared. I paused and decided not to pressure her any further. Instead, I turned my attention to the children, and how I could somehow gain their trust. Carolyn, that's your name? The rock was cold under my knees as I got down to her level. The child nodded. Is it all right if I call you that? Another nod. How old are you? 6? So my assumption was close, but still a little off. 6? Wow, you're so brave. I slightly praised her, doing my best to get on her good side. She seemed to be a bit more comfortable after this, and she settled down from her frightened stance. I'll be 7 in 2 months, she nodded eagerly. 7? Wow, so when's your birthday, exactly? I enthused, doing my best to get a read on her. May 9th, she proudly pronounced. Of what year? I questioned, hoping she knew. This was already off. Her birthday was 3 months ago. She looked confused, and then looked at her little hands, fingers popping up and going down in no apparent pattern or reason, until she finally blurted out a year. 1999. I frowned. She had already been through 2 birthdays down here, and didn't even realize it. She was 8. Do you know everyone else's names? Carolyn nodded eagerly, a bright smile beaming across her face now. Do you think you could tell me their names? Another nod, and she went to work, pointing and telling me everyone's names. Gregory? A light blonde-haired boy, green eyes, he looked about 10, lightly freckled face with a few on his arms. Helena, but we call her Lena. Long, straight black hair covered her face and arms that were wrapped around her knees. She was one of the ones that was crying earlier when the woman got upset. Carlos, an older kid probably pushing 15 at this point, and looked like he was involved in sports in school at one point. Francine, a young girl that was similar to me. Light brown hair and green eyes, but her style was much different in that she sported a bright pink backpack bedazzled in every single gem available at Walmart. I chuckled to myself at that. Diana, Peter, and Ashton, they're triplets. They were most definitely triplets. 2 looked identical, Peter and Ashton, and Diana was just about as close as she could be. All the same beautiful shade of strawberry blonde hair, fair-skinned, and beautiful little birthmarks on their cheeks, accompanied by dimples that barely show. What are you guys doing here? I questioned Carolyn. Oh, she shrugged. She said we were gonna get to go see some animals. She pointed at the woman again. That's enough. She started in again. The woman struggled against the restraints. That's enough. Leave them alone. Do you know that woman? I pointed at the fuming ray of sunshine that was thrashing around. Carolyn nodded. What's her name? I don't know her name. Where did you meet her? She said she was friends with Mummy. She said she would take me to go see some animals today, and we showed up here. Carolyn beamed. Shit, I mumbled. No wonder they were all terrified. Does anyone know her name? I looked between all the faces of the children. None of them seemed like they would respond until Carlos spoke up. She's my aunt, he barely whispered. But we weren't supposed to be here. I don't know why we're here. We were just supposed to go to the park today. I don't even know these kids. The younger child huddled up in his arms. Lena started crying into his shirt, and she patted her back softly. I think she kidnapped them